What's up, it's Dan here, and this is my honest review of the newest generation of the CLEW snowboard bindings. Firstly, thank you so much to the CLEW team for letting me try these bindings out. I've had a great time with them so far, and I'll start by saying that this is the first product from CLEW that I've ever ridden with, so I can't compare it to older models, and they are also the first variation of Step In, Step On, whatever you want to call them, style of binding that I've ever tried as well. I'm used to classic bindings. However, the first thing that I tested was the weight of them, and I was massively impressed. I've been riding with the Nitro Team Pros for the last 2 seasons, and I think there was a 20 gram difference. They were about 20 grams heavier, I think, which is incredible for the technology that's inside them. Good job. Anyway, let's start with the mounting. I already came across 2 things that I was pleasantly surprised with during the mounting process, and they are, firstly, there were no washers required for the base plate screw combination that CLEW provide, which I thought was pretty cool. Less parts to screw around with. They haven't come loose so far, so clearly the system works. And the second thing was just a little thing, but if you take the heel cup out, when you screw in the bindings to the board, you actually have a little bit more of a practical process mounting them, which is a nice little added bonus. But moving on to riding with the bindings, when I thought about the mechanism, as I said, this is my first ever time with the step-in system, so I've gotten really quick over the years at strapping in, strapping out, etc. So I never really thought that this style of binding would save me much time. And it took me about 4 runs before I remembered that I need to pull this little lever to click out my foot. Obviously, with my muscle memory from all these years of using classic bindings, I was just ripping them off. So 4 runs, and I started to get used to it. It's definitely more of a luxury than a necessity, this system, but riding straight off the lift, clicking it in, checking it's stiff, and just cracking on makes the whole process of riding a mountain so much smoother. Did it actually save time? Yes, probably a little bit, a few seconds here and there. But more than that, it's the process of getting to the bottom, pulling the lever, skating onto the lift, getting to the top, clicking in, riding away, without ever having to really do much with the binding itself. And I was really surprised at how quickly I started to actually enjoy this. Looking at previous models, I've always assumed it was just a bit of a gimmick. And since that morning, I've had power runs where I've had to unclick, walk up, click back in. And yes, you've got to clear out a little bit of snow, but realistically, what binding doesn't in that situation? Also had hiking sessions in the park, walking up and down, hitting the same feature. This really shined for me there. It really highlighted how fast the process of getting in and out of the bindings was, especially when you're doing it that much in one short period of time. And the other little benefit in this situation was obviously half of each of the binding is still strapped to your foot. Therefore, carrying the board is a little bit lighter, which is nice. There have been a couple of times where I've clicked in and I've had to then readjust that toe strap slightly just because my toes haven't gone quite underneath that toe strap. But I've got to say, one feature about the bindings that I do really like is the fixed toe strap system that you can adjust to your boot. Big fan of that. Also, I found out that sometimes I have to double check that I'm latched into all 3 of those latches that are there. I understand that once you click into 1 or 2, then you're actually in the binding and you're safe there. But if I'm going to be hitting rails, jumps, or doing some high-speed carves, I want to make sure that I'm fully secured into that binding. Not that that's a problem, but it's just something that I have to bear in mind. I go click, click, and then I have to play a little, make sure that I'm in fully. As for the way that the binding itself performs, I would say that it's stiff, responsive ride. Not so stiff that you can't bone out a grab in the park, but also nice and responsive, so if you want to do some high speed, deep carves, it's got your back. Would I say that this binding performs better than other classic binding brands? Probably not, but I also wouldn't say that it performs worse. It definitely depends on which specific binding you're comparing this to. But the point of these, at least in my opinion, is that you have a great product, which is a stiff, responsive, good all-mountain binding that comes with this extra technology. And honestly, I never expected to enjoy the technology as much as I do, and the fact that there are negligible differences in size and weight is also a massive bonus. Would I buy them? I think that if you're willing to go out and spend money on a brand new step of step-on bindings and step-on boots, then this is a much better alternative that doesn't pin you into a corner. They still function as normal bindings if you want to, and they're compatible with any boot. So yeah, overall, much more impressed than I expected to be. You have my respect.